Sweet Lord, I'm done with children.
Just say follow the yellow brick road.
Oh my God.
Hear the roar.
She should be doing this, not me. I have not taken helium, okay?
I love it.
Is that your drug of preference?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
Now all of a sudden, see, I got the sound effect, Mike. Okay.
You get to be the voice of God.
Oh, God's gonna judge you, all right. The Lord's wrath is about to come down upon you.
Oh, I love
Oh
it.
my gosh.
That's so cool. I love it.
Oh, it's great for you.
Hey, wait, what was that? There was nothing on there.
There was nothing. That's just all.
That's just Tim. Well,
That's just me.
You heard a little bit of.
Hey! Do not reveal those secrets.
Oh, we'll cut that from the record.
Oh, what was that one?
I said, I don't know. They're the ones making the voices. I'm just.
This makes me think of the Iron Giant. That one does.
I like this one.
Okay. Yeah, that's more my speed.
Okay, Alvin.
My helium tank is blowing up.
And this is the way I got to talk the rest of my life.
Oh, well, welcome back.
Yeah, is this all really live happening?
Yeah,
Do you guys really?
This
do you
is
guys
how we do it.
all of this with everybody else too?
Yeah, yeah.
It's hilarious.
Sweet Lord.
We pick somebody to be on the FX mic,
And that's why you swapped us seats.
and that's why I swapped you guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew you'd have a lot of fun with it, but I knew that he would be
Just get embarrassed and
I'm
awkward
not
about
embarrassed. More annoyed.
it. More annoyed. He said it.
I thought I got out of children's church when I left Tucson. Now I'm just in one of the rooms.
Yes.
I'm a big children's church kid.
A
Two
padded-
big children's
padded
church
room, too. It makes sense.
You guys want his
Padded
address?
room.
I'll give you his address if you need it.
I will do that.
221B Baker Street.
Wannabe homies.
All right, let's go ahead and get this going.
All
I
right.
thought we were doing that already. Okay.
This is all
Now
the
we'll
warm.
get to the serious
This is all the
part.
warm up stuff.
Yeah,
right
that
here.
was the warm up to get you nice
This
and
is what
comfortable.
you guys call the icebreaker.
Okay.
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
Sherlock
Today we're talking
Today
about
we're talking about how you can make
Sound effects.
and annoy somebody to death. Sherlock Holmes and Waddy.
Oh, well, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Sunset Cast. Today we have two special guests. Two of them. Two very special people in my life and in my family's lives. They are what I would consider my grandparents. They are what you would consider God grandparents? Spiritual grandparents. I have known them since I was a fetus. They have known me since before I was a fetus. And they knew my parents since my dad was
When they just got saved.
Sophomore
Yeah.
in high school?
14?
Yeah.
15?
Freshman in high school, yeah.
Yeah.
One of those.
And then my mom was 16 when you guys met her. That's crazy. Anyways, they've been in a part of our life for a very long time. I call them Nana and Tata. This one's Nana. That is also Nana. No, I'm just kidding.
Na 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 na.
Poor Nana.
Yeah, someone's about to get it.
Well, as far as proper introductions go, this is my Nana Cathy and this is my Tata Tim. They have come all the way from Arizona to visit our family, to spend time with us. So I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to have them here to get a little insight into their lives so that you guys can meet them as well and kind of learn a little bit more of my family. And because they're very connected to my family, they are family. But also just to get a different insight on other people that are part part of our church, part of our fellowship, and also to kind of see the lives of different people. We've had different people come on to this podcast, right? We've had drug addicts, we've had gangsters, we've had just people that are lost and broken, and we see them all changed. We see that their lives have become totally different, and they're doing different things in their life for God because they want to give glory to God. So these are two more very interesting people. Even as I was talking to them downstairs before the podcast, I was learning new things, and I was like, I didn't even know that.
His eyes were like, whoa.
Yeah.
My eyes have been opened.
So, we're always going to learn new things about everybody, but to kind of get it started, I'm kind of going to go out of order of where we had started earlier. We talked a lot downstairs.
Yes, we did.
And so how did you guys meet? That is the question, because you have been happily married.
Who's gonna go first?
How much of that story would you like me to tell, honey?
Do I want to look like the good guy or the bad guy?
So we did meet
met at
at
church.
church.
Okay.
We did meet at church.
Okay.
And ultimately, honey, how much liberality?
Go right ahead. You know.
Okay. He did have me tell this story to Ami earlier today, and he goes, she tells it better.
She does.
So I had already been saved for several years and kind of pulling into the parking lot with my parents. And there's this guy making out with this girl in the parking lot right by this car. And I just remember going, ooh, like, who are those people? And like, they're just right there kissing on each other and stuff. And no offense, honey, but he knows this part of the story. I just remember looking over at my sister and being like, man, that's such a pretty girl to be with such an ugly guy.
Still hurts to this day.
But you won in the end. That's all that matters.
Did I?
Oh!
Shame, shame, shame. Know your name.
Okay. Gosh.
So that was our initial introduction. Now,
Okay.
it wasn't a hello from you
Great
to
first
me.
impression.
That was a first impression. I wouldn't call it a great first impression.
It was an impression.
So yeah, ultimately, so he didn't even know that I noticed him then and what was going on, and it was a period of time later before I'm just gonna say I saw him again. And at that point, he had given his life to Jesus and was surrendering to God's will in his life. He was submitting to authority in the church. He was helping like the door director, and I just remember it felt like I was seeing him for the first time because he just looked and appeared and acted so differently.
Right,
So
right.
That was my initial introduction to my now husband.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you first meet her?
Well, I mean, obviously, I went to church for all the wrong reasons because the girl brought me, trying to get a relationship right.
Not
with-
this girl.
Not this girl. The one I was making out in the parking lot, which I don't remember, but went there for all the wrong reasons.
Sure.
Yeah. I gave my life to Jesus, but I wasn't truly surrendered. It took more of an incident with that girl when she started dating somebody else from church, and I was like, you know what, God, if this is what the church has to offer, I can get this in the world. And I remember I was going to leave church. I had my plans all set up, moved back to my house. I lived in a brother's house at the time, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to leave this. But I remember walking out in the desert as I was going through this, and a voice spoke to me and says, what are you going to do now? And I was like, I'm going to go back to what I was, because if this is serving you, what do I want this for? And he goes, that's not serving me. He goes, you need to surrender. And I remember I said, God, you just need to take all the feelings away I have for this girl. And, prayed out in the middle of the desert, wasn't at church, anything like that, all by myself. And then, went to bed that night, woke up the next morning. Didn't have any hate or anything, but the bondage was gone. The connection was gone.
Yeah.
And that's where when I started to excel serving God, because I just basically put everything into serving God. I wanted to, was prayer meeting, all those things, and built a relationship with God, not trying to impress anybody, just
Right.
simply trying to serve God.
Right.
And then how I eventually met my beautiful and lovely wife. Was probably 2 years down the road from there. You know, was kind of had some dating relationships, but nothing ever really worked out. And I just eventually really did get tired of just the whole dating. So, you know, God, I'm just going to serve you. I don't care if I'm a bachelor to the rapture or whatever. I'm just going to serve God. But I was doing a skit
That's
team
a
called
sermon.
Yeah, I was doing a skit team called the Little Rascals at the time because I was well educated in drama because I was on a skit team for 6 months. Got into I met her through that ministry, but that ministry, as I was telling you earlier, started kind of out with a tragedy at the church. I was involved with a teen skit team, signed up to help in children's church. They asked us to do some skits. A tragedy happened at the conference that year. This would have been in 88, 89 time frame. You know, reality was somebody got shot at the church through the door. And then we ended up, you know, they said, you know, they weren't going to cancel conference. They still wanted to press on. And since we didn't get to finish our skits, Frank King said, hey, can you please come back Thursday and do it? So came back Thursday, did it again. He's like, hey, the kids love you guys so much. Can you come back on Friday? Came back on Friday, came up with a couple more. And then after that, Frank asked us if we could be a part of children's ministry, like on the fifth Sundays, special times, doing things like that. So we created a skit team called the Little Rascals. We helped with some Saturday Night Live scenes. And at the time, we had a lot of young people in there. You know, I was the elder at 18, 19. You know, and everybody else is on there. But there was probably about 20, 30 of us in there. And my beautiful wife joined the team to stalk me. No, I was kidding.
That is not true.
Well, she joined it. She joined the team because, you know, again, it was a youth-driven ministry, and you know, God was doing some great things through our skits and ministering in children's church, and also on Saturday Night Alive. And I, you know, because I think we had the same heart to want to minister to children and just be a part of ministry of serving God. You know, we started talking.
Nice.
So I did not join the skit team to stalk him. It really was just about surrendering to God and saying,
Seeing
God,
who your
whatever
future husband
talents
was.
I have, I'm giving them to you for your glory, and use them however you want to use them, because you gave them to me to be used by you. So I surrendered to that. And and that's where...
Her eyes were opened.
God said, oh, you'll use your gifts and talents to woo this man.
Stop. Manuelito, stop.
All right, so now we kind of know how you guys met. And how long have you guys been married for?
Going on 35 years.
Nice.
October 28th.
28th.
Yep.
Oh,
35.
28th.
Yes, coming up this month.
Wow.
So this is kind of our getaway for our 35th.
Okay.
Well, maybe the next few days will be.
I mean, you know, not this. This is definitely not
Right.
honeymoon quality material.
This is not the highlight of
This
your
is
trip.
not the highlight. So far.
No, it is definitely a
It's
highlight
definitely a
to be
privilege
with
to
our
do that,
grandson
to
to
be a
help.
part of
Yeah.
this, but we're enjoying ourselves.
Good. I'm glad you guys have been here since when? Thursday? You guys got
We got
here?
in Thursday at like
No, actually,
midnight.
Friday morning at
Friday
a little after midnight, and got
yeah.
to our hotel at 2:00 in the morning, and I think I finally went to bed at 3:00, and then we were up by
8:30ish. Yeah.
because we got hotel food, so you know we had to be there before 9. So.
Right. Gotta be able to be there and enjoy it.
He needed a pancake.
I
That's
gotta
what it
have.
was.
I wanted waffles, but they didn't have me. But they had a cool pancake maker. Make pancakes for you right there. Nice. So be jealous.
What's up with that? A couple hotels I've been to, they don't have waffle makers anymore. I'm like, what happened to waffle makers?
I don't know. I think we're just spoiled children,
think
because
they
I
take-
was crying about not having bacon either. So
First
They
world
make too much
problems.
mess.
First world problems.
Oh yeah,
They
I
do
guess,
make a
yeah.
mess.
And they're probably people get burned because you don't know how to use them.
Yeah.
Got a lot of people.
even
who
though
are
they
burned.
leave the instructions right there.
Because it's open and you have dumb people. I mean, special.
Can you
people.
say that on here? I censored right there. Censored.
I'll put my filter back on. Hold on. There it is. It's there.
Oh, you dropped a piece. There you go.
Oh, there it is.
It'll stay on.
All right, so now that we know a little bit about you guys, now we want to hear before, right? So, like how you met this.
What brought us to salvation?
Yes, you before you met that other girl, and then before you met him, before you started going to church.
I'll let her go first. I'm a gentleman.
So, who were you before coming to Christ?
Well, before coming to the Christ, I was a very young child. I was raised in a family with a Marine father, a very hardworking mother. My mother had to work additionally hard. My father had Crohn's disease. And, basically that's just, your intestines get blocked up, and he was in and out of the hospital a lot. That left my mom working. She worked at Hughes Aircraft. She was one of the inspectors there with things there, and actually eventually getting a job at Kmart and working in the garden department. Whatever she needed to do,
Right.
she had to do that for our family. My father was home a lot, and I think basically a lot of frustrations he had in him because he couldn't work. There were times that he would gamble. He wanted to basically his goal, even as twisted as it was to still try and make money for our family.
Right.
And at times would go out and gamble and then end up losing money, which kind of made the problems with a family of 6 kids worse.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the environment that I was in. You were talking about the different people that you've had here on the podcast. And I was really just kind of asking God what he really wanted me to say and how much he wanted me to say about who I was before I gave my life to Jesus. And I'm going to go ahead and say this, not only was that the dynamic in my home as far as my mom working a lot and my dad being sick and gambling off and on, they still tried to keep our family together. We would still sit down and have that family dinner,
Right.
We had the goats, the chickens, the rabbits, the dogs, the guinea pigs. You got all these things. And, I learned to be a hard worker early on in my life, milking goats and chickens, getting the eggs and doing all these things. But, there was something that, happened to me at a young child that no child should have to go through. For 2 years of my life, I was molested by a family member. And that kind of in combination with the dynamic of my home really made me an angry person. It really made me somebody who is very standoffish. I because of what I went through, I was always told, you have to obey your elders, right?
Right.
And I believe at the core of that is a great thing to teach children. But in my own life, it was a little bit confusing, right? I had somebody that was my elder that was telling me to do certain things that truthfully as a child, I didn't really know was wrong. I know that I didn't feel good when it was happening, but I also felt like it was very secretive and I couldn't say anything about it. And there was just a really big part of me that said that if I did say something, like my family was just going to fall apart. And this is all who I was, between the ages of like 9 and 11. This is how young all of this was happening. I remember really the devil just coming to my mind and pretty much telling me, the reason why you didn't like being with that person is because he's a man. And it's because you really want to be with women. The devil's quick to come in those moments and twist, what God means for good.
Right.
He twists that and he can just really confuse you. And there was a short period of time that I had a girlfriend. Here I am, 11 years old.
Yeah.
Hurting, a little bit of a disjointed family with kind of the dynamic that was going on. And then obviously the molestation that was happening. And remembered pursuing this relationship with a girl that was a couple years younger than me. And I think I'm 11. She was like 8 or 9.
Oh, wow.
So it's really a crazy concept to see how quickly the devil can come in so early and devastate so quickly.
Yeah.
So that's what was going on in my life at that time. And I can remember, we had gone to a Baptist church off and on. My parents, I think because they were parents to 6 children, for them it was kind of a respite. Put them all on the Baptist bus and send them off to church. And I think they just got a break from all of us kids.
Yeah.
When you have kids, you'll understand some of that.
Kids, you won't understand that yet.
Yeah. So, anywho, so I would go to that church off and on, but I could just remember the mentality there was, shh, the really important people are downstairs. All the gray-haired people who put money in the offering, you need to be quiet while they're listening because they're the important ones. So I really didn't have a concept of God, who God was. I certainly didn't feel him in my home. I mean, I know that we prayed over our food, but it was more of just kind of a general practice more than it was really
This
kind
is
of
just what families do.
this is what we do.
Yeah,
And you better do it. You know what I mean? So this, all of that was who I was before I gave my life to Jesus. Now, I had a family member that got saved and started inviting us to church. And I loved music, so they were inviting me to the music nights, and I just couldn't get enough of it.
Right.
Loved going to this tiny little street, church on Veterans Boulevard, where you had one big fan and no working AC. And you would kind of just put your hand up to try and figure out where the fan was blowing. And you would
Sort of
try
like
and
Lakewood, Washington.
yeah, except for you guys turn on fans because Erica's cold, and I had on like 3 sweaters, or she's hot, and I had on 3 sweaters, and I was cold, so it's kind of
You
funny.
guys don't need fans here.
Yeah. But we understand why. But anywho, that's what I came into, this little, beat up carpet place with this tiny little stage, and really, it was 2 years before I really gave my life to Jesus.
Yeah.
In those 2 years, my parents had started coming to the church and they had gotten saved. And my dad would periodically was like, you need to go down. Somebody would come to talk to me about Jesus. And here we are again, you need to obey your elders.
Right.
And you need to go down. And I would just go down. I was honoring my father and just going down because he told me to do so. But I was right around just early age 14 when I bowed my knee out of my own decision.
Yeah.
I had been watching people for like 2 years, and those of you that are younger, you might not get this reference, but I could just remember watching people at the church and thinking it was all too perfect. It was like the Brady Bunch. Everybody had this perfect life, and they were always so happy. And that wasn't me, I was going home after every church service and looking at the brokenness of my family, even though my parents had started coming to church and they were starting to make right decisions, there were still all these things going on in my heart and my mind, my emotions, my habits. And there was all of that was being seen in the dynamic in my home as well. And but I was 14 years old when I decided I was going to bow my knee, that all the love and joy and happiness that I had seen in people over these last 2 years, I wanted it. I wanted it.
Yeah.
And there was nothing else that was going to stand in my way. I wanted it. And so I bowed my knee in that moment. And, over the years to come, God started working out those things in me, those mindsets, those fears, those insecurities, the lies that the devil had poured into my heart and my mind. And God just started working out things in me, Daily took up my cross and I followed after him. And I remember going from feeling used, feeling less than, not knowing who I was or if there was even a purpose for my life.
Yeah.
And just eventually God just working on me and becoming the kind of person that says, you know what, I'm a daughter of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And I know that his plan for me is perfect. And I became the kind of person that felt like I could walk into any room and keep my my head held up high,
Yeah.
because of what God was doing in me and through me. And God has used that for years and years and years and years to come.
Wow. Well, there's a lot in there I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
All right, so now it's my turn.
Yeah. Now it's
Well-
your turn to get a little teary-eyed too.
Well, I was born at a very young age. No, I'm just kidding. Wow. I just had to do it. No,
How old were you when you were born?
I was 0 age. I was, straight out. I was called of the Lord when I first came out and was born. No, I'm just kidding. I was not. No, today's day and age, a broken home is a very normal thing. But when I was a kid, it was not.
Right.
By the time I think I was 6 or 7 years old, she was already married twice.
Oh, wow.
And so, so that type of relationship, I didn't really know my real dad. My stepdad wasn't a bad guy. I'm not going to say he was a horrible guy. He was, he did a lot of stuff with us, but my family, they suffer from being alcoholics. And that was prevalent. I remember my step-grandfather, he was a World War II vet, but he was a alcoholic. He was very scary to be around because, once he started drinking too much, he'd get pretty violent. I mean, he was, he's truly a war hero. He was out on a raft for like 40-something days, stranded out in World War II when the submarine got sunk. And so kind of, now I can look back and I guess I can kind of understand that. There wasn't any real help for him back then except for alcohol, But then my mom, got divorced for the second time when I was a freshman in high school. And that really just kind of tore me apart. I was just like, this, got no man, no father figure in the home,
Right.
don't know quite what to do. And that's really when I probably hit my most rebellious stage. I remember my mom would be like, hey, you're not going to go out. I'm like, who's going to stop me? You're not going to stop. And I just walk out the door and maybe come back a couple of days later, go out, partying with friends, hanging out, and just doing whatever I wanted to do. Now, I wasn't, if you looked on the outward appearance, I wasn't like this hardcore rocker or drug addict or anything like that. I just was a broken young man.
Yeah.
But, kind of backtrack a little bit was when I was about 11 or 12, my oldest brother committed suicide. When I was about 11, 12 years old, he took his life over a girl. And I remember probably about the same age he was at, about 16, 17, I was kind of going to that same dilemma. I remember, suicide was a very real thing. My mom tried to commit suicide at one time. So it was definitely a family trait that we, a family curse that we had.
Yeah.
And I remember a few times, I would put a shotgun up. There was a shotgun on a rack by our door, and I'd always put it up in my head. I was like, all I have to do is pull the trigger and end it. But, thank God that, God did a miracle. I had, this girl that she started going to church right after, I graduated high school. I was trying to keep this relationship together. It wasn't a great relationship, but it was all I knew. And then so she went to church. I went to church just so we could try to stay together. And I remember being at church and Ernie Ruby, saw me raise my hand when nobody else did. I don't even think Pastor Warner saw me raise my hand at the time, but he came up, prayed with me, went down to the altar, and he followed up with me. But I was still, I moved to the brother's house. That's another story in itself. A lot of demon-possessed people there, but I can honestly say that if I would have stayed at my mom's house, I would have never stayed saved because I wouldn't have had that accountability.
Right,
We had our trials and errors, but I met a lot of good guys through the brother's house.
Yeah.
But I was still trying to work it out with this girl, and then eventually she started, seeing some of the guy at church. Like 6 months into my salvation, and I just remember, what? If this is what the world has to offer, I don't want it. If this is what the church has to offer, this is what the world's like for me. So what's the difference? So I remember, I think I was telling you earlier, I was planning on leaving the church, and then, boom, God spoke to me out in the desert, set me free, and I surrendered and said, I'm going to serve God no matter what. I'm just going to serve God. I'm not going to be perfect at it, but I'm going to give God everything I have. And ever since then, I have been. Have I been perfect? No, but I've never walked away from God. So, and then, started ministry, all those things. But, had a life that was not the easiest. But again, I wasn't a drug addict or anything like that. Just really just broken.
Yeah.
Just
Just searching
sin,
for something.
Yeah, what sin does to everybody, it eventually breaks you.
Yeah.
It leaves you empty and stuff. So.
So you mentioned that you went into ministry earlier, right? You had said that you went into ministry. You started off with the skit team. You went from there and then finally got invited by Mr. Frank King to start doing the skit team with Children's Church.
Yes.
And then slowly you guys both started getting involved in Children's Church.
We were both involved with Children's Church, a few years. Then I finally said yes to her about marrying her. No, I'm just kidding.
True story.
Just kidding.
I was bold enough to ask him.
Yeah. But no, I asked, I asked on Valentine's Day in Tucson in the snow. Nobody can top that in Tucson, okay?
Yeah, no, that's hard to beat.
That's
in
hard to
Tucson.
do in
That's
Tucson,
very
okay?
hard.
So, but we got married. I think we were dating less than 2 years altogether from beginning to end. Our first official date was the 25th anniversary of
The church.
Oh,
The
wow.
banquet.
The banquet.
Really?
And then that was our first date with the ugliest limo in the world. I will never do that one again. That wasn't my choice.
There were
of
like
her,
4 other couples, and so they all went in, and we got the Excalibur.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
big.
nice.
I felt like a princess.
Right.
I had a new dress on. We were inside a limo. He gave me
I
flowers.
was like, I paid money for this. This thing is ugly. She enjoyed it. I was just like, come on, we can do better than this.
Yeah. The one
It
time.
looked like Cruella DeVille's car.
Yes.
Oh, like
Yeah.
front end of it.
The
And I'm all
bend.
like, come on, man.
Yeah.
When we went
He
to go
started to
see
say ghetto.
when we went to go see the limo, we went to go see all the limos. I joked like, "Oh, I want that one." They're like, "Oh, that's the one we're getting." I go, "Seriously? That's ugly." But at the time, I was outvoted, so I was like, "Whatever, I don't care. I just got to somehow pay for this."
Sorry to all the other couples that were there if you're hearing this for the first time.
That limo was ugly.
you could probably see it on his face that that's what he was thinking.
Yeah, I was not happy with it. But you know what? Hey, it worked out. She still stayed with me, so we're good. So. And what were we talking about now?
I was blanking. I drew a blank as well. I was trying to
You were
remember.
talking about us, how we got involved in Children's Church,
Oh, yeah.
how we started. Frank officially asked you, "Can you do the skit group?" which we
started
ended up
doing the
calling
skit-
Little
the
Rascals.
skit team, but I was also helping the door director. She got involved with Vision Unlimited first, the youth group. I kind of came in. I was asked to come in by Ed Gutierrez to help out. I was never a student, but because I was at the time too old to be a student, but I started helping out, and that's again we were in ministry together.
And were you guys married at that time, or
Not at that time.
No,
No, we
okay.
weren't married at that, but we were still in Little Rascals. So eventually, when we got married, we became a couple in Vision, and then within I think a year or so later, we were taking over the ministry.
Okay.
We were taking over Vision Unlimited, or
Have your microphone follow you.
okay,
Sorry,
I gotta remember that.
Scolding my husband on camera.
And I'm the one that knows
Amazing.
that. I'm the one that knows to do that. But so we took it over. That's where I met your dad.
Yep.
Yes, when we started doing that, I got called to the principal's office a few times because of your dad, for good reasons.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I used to love those stories.
At Desert View High School,
That's right.
the principal did not like me for whatever reason because I challenged him, and I didn't accept his answers, and went to the school board with your dad and all that, and so eventually, the principal, every time he saw me, he would just kind of yell at me. But I didn't care anymore because I was like, I'm gonna defend their rights to be able to preach the gospel at the school.
Yeah.
That's what they were getting called out for, handing out flyers and all that. And I'm like, no, you're not gonna do that to these kids. They have the right to do that. Prescott, our mother church, actually went to court over it to fight it. They won
Really?
the case. So Pastor Mitchell sent me all the documents, and I took him down to the school board, dropped him off at the school board. Of course, I had the audacity to show up with no appointment. I'm like, well, I thought you were here for the kids and the parents, but my bad. You guys are more important than we are. But then I dropped it off, and they still didn't respond to it. And so I challenged. I said, listen, you guys really need to read this before we press. I push further with our own lawyers, and they finally read it and realized, oh yeah, we need to let these kids hand out flyers. And so we pushed that, and we got along for a little bit. Then they decided they were going to go preach in the cafeteria, I want to say, or right outside the cafeteria. And then I got called one more time in. Back then, they didn't call me. They paged me. I had a pager. I was cool. I had a pager. Yeah, I was like, oh, no. And so I went to the school, and I remember the principal, he wouldn't even talk to me at the time because he was all like, because everything he would say, I would take to the school board and say, this is what he said, and it's not legal. Right. And then so eventually he's just like, well, okay, you just tell me what you want to say. And I just told him, hey, you're violating their rights. You don't have the right to do this, and I'm going to challenge you on it. And then he suspended some of the kids, but I love that some of the moms came in and are like, no, they're not. They're not getting suspended for this. They'll be in school tomorrow. Don't worry about it. And so, that's how I met your dad, through Vision. And then, we did Vision for 3 years or so. 3 years or so. And, and to be honest with you, I got involved with sin. I'm not going to even make excuses. I stepped out of the ministry. I went to the pastor and said, this is what's happening in my life. He sat me down. He didn't, he had the right to kick me out of church if he wanted to, but he didn't. He was very gracious. But, like with our pastor, he, it's not about the discipline. It's about the restoration. And that's what he was concerned about. And, he stayed at church, stayed under the discipline, and eventually, he let me step back into ministry. I was happy just to do the parking lot. Yeah. I was working on the parking lot, watching that, and then eventually got back into helping in children's church, and then eventually started doing a Bible study on Friday nights. But, I'll be honest with my heart, I enjoyed doing the Bible study, met a lot of great guys. I took it over from Frank King. Was it Frank King? I don't remember who I took it over from. I took it over from somebody for the Bible study. But I did it for about 8 months to a year. At the time, we didn't have breaks. We didn't do sessions. We were like every Friday, and we would do Saturdays. And so it became a lot, but I was also involved with children's ministry. And then, then we did Braveheart. One soul's journey. Oh, yeah. And that was a big commitment on that level, too. Yeah. And my heart really burned for working with children. Yeah. The adults, I do like adults no matter what I say. Sometimes I like adults. But what I realized is there's a lot of guys who could do the Bible study, but there wasn't a lot of people who could actually do children's church and do it well. Right. And I knew what God had called me to do was to work with children, to work with the young servants. And so I talked to Pastor Smith about it 8 months later. Finally, they released me to just to work in the children's church. Yeah. Julio Blanco took over the Bible study for me. We had a lot of great guys. Desi Wheeler was in my Bible study. There's a lot of guys who are pastoring now that were part of that Bible study, and that's why I always felt confident that I could step away from it, and there'd be good guys to take it over. And then, I dove into the ministry, but we both did, and it was the great thing about children's ministry is your kids can help. Yeah, we had a great ministry with our kids, being a part of it. And it's still to this day. Even though a couple of them aren't serving God, they still remember all the things that we did, in that ministry. Yeah. So that's, again, now I'm lost.
No, it's good. I was going to say, I think that's probably like one of the biggest accomplishments that you can say as a parent, right? In churches, even though my kids are outside of church, they still know the things of God. Right. They still know, what I'm doing is wrong. And I remember helping you guys in church, and I remember all the great times that we had because you guys put us in the direction of God, right? The Bible says, right, to guide your children in the way that they should go, teach them about God. And even when I was outside of church, that was one thing that I appreciated was, wow, I remember all the things that we did as a family. That even pioneering in California, when we didn't really have a whole lot of time together as a family, we took the time that we were doing stuff for church and made it family time. Right. When we did outreaches, it was family time. When we did, movie nights for the church, it was our family time. When we were, everything that we did was family time. And everything that happened, I remembered. Right. And I still kept it in my heart. And I think it even goes to how can a young person keep their way pure, right? By keeping your word in their hearts. Very good. And even outside of church, my mom had mentioned it. When was it? The last episode with my Theo. She had mentioned that. Oh my goodness, I blanked on what I was saying.
Join the club.
Yeah. Wow, I don't even remember.
But it was good.
Yes,
That she prayed
yeah.
for you, that
Yeah,
things
yeah, yeah.
came
Pray,
to
pray.
remembrance when
Yeah.
you were in your sin. Was it anything like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Oh, this is bad.
Crickets, crickets, crickets.
But I was gonna ask too, with you wanting to go into children's ministry, do you think it had anything to do with where you were before coming to God? Because you had mentioned that as a kid, you know, as a teen, that you were lost and you were broken, and you didn't have that father figure to look to.
I think it had something to do with it, but I've always had a care for children. I've always gotten along with children, always loved being around little kids, you know, and when I got older, I loved being around teenagers.
Yeah.
Just love being around. There was something about them that you got to work with them, mold them. I mean, they would frustrate you sometimes
Oh,
to
yeah.
death. But, we've been doing children's ministry for 30 plus years.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been in charge. We were telling the story was, when Frank King asked me about taking over the ministry, I really didn't have to pray about it because God already clearly spoke to me years before that, saying,
Right.
that you're going to lead the ministry. And I was like, God, I really don't want to do that. I'm just going to be, I enjoyed working with the kids, and I just didn't want the responsibility of all of it because, it seemed to be a little overwhelming. And when I was like, I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. I don't
Right.
need to be a leader. I don't need a position to validate my ministry, and then, honestly, and there was a time when we were in children's church, children's church, quote unquote, was looked down as babysitting or something like that. It wasn't a valid ministry, but I understood it was,
Right,
because,
right.
if you weren't being sent out, if you weren't being launched out, are you really ministering?
Right.
But eventually, now we can see 30 something years down the road, the validation of that ministry.
How important it is.
We've been doing it for 15 years now. And we've just seen what God has done. So a lot of times when we talk to baby churches, we're like, listen, don't look at where Tucson is. Look at where we were. We've got 50 years of ministry going on.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to where we're at overnight. You got to understand, you got to have, a vision. You got to understand it's going to take time. It's not a sprint. It's going to be a long marathon. But sooner or later, you're going to start seeing these young kids raised up. They're going to start joining the worship teams. They're going to start doing sound. They're going to start doing all these other things. They're going to stay in children's church. They're going to help you out, and you're going to see, a great increase. In that ministry. And so it's really a very valid ministry that every church needs to have. Last year's conference, I remember, kind of came to me. I look at the children's church as the 401k of the church.
Yeah.
You invest a little bit into that, but over years, if you keep investing in that, it's gonna pay dividends back to the church.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
Oh, yeah.
and that's what we see in Tucson. We see the dividends are being paid. So I encourage a lot of churches, like, you may be thinking it's only a little bit of value you're putting into it, but eventually that value grows and grows as long as you continue to invest in it and believe, and let God do His work in it, and just understand it's going to be years before I see fruit. But once you start seeing that fruit, it's an amazing thing. I mean, we go a lot of places we go now. Everybody's like, I remember you. I remember you.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and how much they appreciate it. And sometimes you need that every once in a while where, you're feeling kind of, lost in children's church.
Yeah.
We're in the other building now, and nobody ever knows that, if we're saved or serving God. No, I'm just kidding. Some people are like, are Tim and Cathy still at church?
Yeah.
'Cause I have not seen them in months. And like, no, we're in children's church.
Yeah.
Just step over there. And
Yeah.
but then when you have people come up and just say, hey, I appreciate everything you've done. I remember when you worked with my son here and you did this with us. It's, that's, God always seems to bring those people along when you're kind of going through those struggles.
Right. I was gonna ask, what, you started mentioning the dividends, right? Just last year or just this year in conference, we saw Ben and Sarah be, announced as the door directors. We saw Eddie and Sue get sent out to Texas.
Yeah, Dallas.
Yeah. And, we're starting to see, I was just thinking of it, right? Like when I was watching conference, like how crazy it is that these kids they're not kids anymore, right? They're grown adults, but these people that we used to see as kids and that I used to hang out with and that sometimes would watch over me, right? Are now doing things for God and knowing their testimonies of their struggles and where they've come from, even being church kids and pastors' kids, is like, wow, like who else is going to do that, right? Like, but how important it is for the children's ministry. If they weren't raised up in children's church, if they weren't guided in the way that they should have in the things of God, then those foundations would have never been established for them.
Right.
And then who knows where they would have been? Who knows where they would be?
And ultimately, there's obviously another investment there. Their parents are there too,
Right,
Yes.
right.
investing in their lives, praying for them. The congregation has invested in their lives as
Yeah.
well, and they've been doing things for God for a while. I know that we're seeing them going into a pastoral role, but we have other people inside the church that they're serving in the nursery.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're serving on the cleaning crew. You know, they're on the soundboards and the like,
Yeah.
and all of these people, you know, still being raised through children's church and
Yeah.
going in through the youth group and going through these different ministries.
Young servants.
You know, young
Yeah.
servants.
Probably one of the
Thankful.
biggest discipleship ones we have
Yeah.
is they learn how to serve. And
Yeah.
Yes, they may or
Yeah.
may not stay in children's church, but they develop, you know, the heart of a servant.
Yes.
And then they, you know, 'cause I remember one time we were at a baseball game, in fact, and an owner of Chick-fil-A had a couple of our young servants, now young adults, working there, and they introduced me to who he was, and he started talking to me. He goes, "Oh, so you're the one that?" I said, "Yeah, yeah." He goes, "You have any more?" He goes, "Because they know how to work."
Yeah.
He goes,
Yeah.
"Because you know these guys really know how to work." He goes, "A lot of these kids that we hire don't know how to work. They have no work ethic." He goes, "These young, you know, we call them the young servants are like."
Yeah, yeah.
They know how to work, and they get down and they work. And so again, you know, it's not just in the church that's a testimony; it's outside the church. And you know, and we get to be a part of all that that. And you know, again, in children's church, our prayer is that we're reinforcing what's being taught at home, and hopefully not being the teachers
Right,
of it.
right.
We're there to give support, because reality is, any week, you know, if it's Pastor Warner preaching, we might have a little bit more time to minister to the kids.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the reality, in a week, we maybe have 3 hours, 4 hours a week is what we have with the kids. So a lot of the stuff has to come from home and being reinforced at church.
Yeah,
You know, what's
yeah.
being taught at church. So, you know, it's a combination of things. And yes, there is that rarity where a kid that, you know, is not getting at home, but genuinely gets saved, serves God. And then, you know, sometimes you have the opposite where they're being taught at home, they're being taught at church, but they choose to go their own way.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
everything that's been invested into them eventually will come back out. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So,
With that, I was going to ask as well, as the children's church leaders and being involved in the youth ministry as well, what has kept you guys going, and what have been some of your highlights being in the ministry for so long?
I mean, what keeps us going? I mean, obviously, Jesus is our fuel, right?
Right.
But we know that people are praying for us. We know that we have to establish our own relationship in prayer and reading God's word. You know, putting on that helmet of salvation, putting on the breastplate of righteousness. I couldn't say it right now, but putting on that full armor of God. But we know that people are partnering together with us. We have a great crew of people that partner together with us. Our pastoral headship, you know, even, you know, sometimes just those encouraging words, you know, from people that could just keep you going. But
Yeah.
just really grateful and thankful. You look around and you see lives changed, and that just fuels your cells. You know, you're like, we're doing something right. God's being glorified. We're seeing these children's eyes light up and their smiles, and we know they're getting it, man.
Yeah.
They're getting it, and we're just going to keep pouring into them. You know, we're leaky vessels. You know, God's pouring into us, and we're just leaking out on to others and just doing what He's called us to do. And you know, He just refreshes us daily.
Right.
yeah. Mine's usually 5-hour energy keeps me going, and a monster. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm just being, you know, she's got
I love
that.
how Cody just looked at me like, "Is that okay?"
She's got the natural energy.
You gotta supplement some of it.
I need a lot of supplements.
Yeah.
For myself. But honestly, what, you know, besides the supplements, but it's the burden I have for the children.
Yeah.
You know, again, there's a great frustration. You're like, you know, you feel unappreciated. But when the kids smile and they laugh and they see you and they say, hey, Mr. Tim, give you hugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, or you hear stories of how they recite Bible things to their parents. Parents come up and say, thank you guys so much for what you're doing. We do appreciate it. That's the stuff, and just knowing that I'm in God's will, knowing what I am doing is God's will. And I know God's going to give me the strength to get through it, and all that. And, he's, blessed the people who got 5-hour energy going, Just kidding. My wife's gonna like.
The reason why I looked at you when he said that is just prior you said that you're driven by the Lord. The Lord gives you your fuel. And then he says he has to substitute stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I God does drive me, but God knows God's given her like supernatural ability to have energy, okay? So I don't have that energy. I want that energy, but you can't transfer it. So, I don't drink coffee. I'm a Christian Mormon. No, I'm just kidding.
Shock and awe happening in the audience right now.
I don't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee either.
She doesn't either. She doesn't take any caffeine, and she has the energy of somebody who drinks 6 Red Bulls a day.
She injects it. That's why.
Yeah, I know. But so I have my 5-hour supplements, or better known as crack, as I call it.
No, we're not talking about that here. You have to take that out right now.
Everybody knows that's what I call it.
But that's not everybody on the camera right now.
Okay, everybody on the camera.
Okay, hold on,
5-hour
folks.
energy.
It's not a commercial for 5-hour.
It's not
energy.
a commercial.
One.
It's just what I take.
We're not
I
gonna
don't
talk
drink
about
coffee.
What he calls it.
It's my supplement. Okay. I won't say the other word.
Oh,
But that's not
C-word.
what gets him up in the morning and doing
She
something for
does.
Jesus. So
She kicks me out of bed in the morning. No, I was kidding.
Go do something for Jesus.
No, I enjoy what I do. I love the kids. I love what the ministry do, and just seeing what God does, and also seeing some of the young men that have been raised up recently, and just recently, but a long time, just seeing what God's doing, and that's what keeps you going. In those hard times, you're just like, one day I need to retire from this, but God's like, no, look what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
and I think another thing that we saw was even last night at the church.
Yeah.
Having a good time. So people who are normally involved in children's church had a really great time.
Yeah.
People that were in the audience, their smiles, their laughters, and when they come over and they just like, that was so much fun.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you can have fun, and have a good time with Jesus and learn God's word.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can inspire somebody, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit because you were talking about, just briefly, do you think that basically what we went through as young children, is that kind of something that helped us make the decision to get into children's church? I think just being around children and their sincere joy, and it's contagious. But truthfully, there was a time that I was like, I don't want anybody to hurt as much as I did. I don't want somebody to feel as lost and confused as I did. I don't want anybody to question their worth like I did. So if I could, if any way, shape, or form, share the love of Jesus with them, share my testimony, use the talents that God has given us to do that. And if I could help them get out of that miry clay, get out of that hole that they're in, that pit of despair, we're going to say for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
If I could help them get out of that earlier, I mean, how much more powerful? I think any of us would say, if I gave my life to Jesus earlier.
Yeah.
We kind of all have that statement, right? Man, if I only gave my life to Jesus when I was 10 instead of 18 or, whatever. But man, just seeing somebody's eyes get lit up, seeing their souls being refreshed, seeing them be encouraged, and literally seeing them be empowered to be like, you could do this. God can use you. You have value, and God has a perfect plan and purpose for your life, and you could step into that.
Yeah, and that's so true because, a lot of the church kids don't think they have a testimony. They think they need to have a jacked up life for God to do something in their life. But reality is the most powerful testimony is somebody who is getting saved at church at a young age, serving God, and not having to destroy their life to realize they need Jesus like I did. At the wit's end, getting ready to commit suicide, at the very, at the bottom of the bottom, destroyed my life, but yet, I finally gave my life to Jesus, and and you have that hard road to come back from.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things that you do as a youth will have a tendency to haunt you when you're older.
Sticks with you.
It will stick with you. You'll have those battles, but I tell kids it's not what God saved you out of; it's what God saved you from. Is the most important because we had the words of my house: divorce, alcoholism, fights, violence, all those things. A lot of these kids, need to really understand what God has saved them from. God has saved them from all that. They don't have to go through it. That's their testimony.
Yeah.
That I got saved because the grace of God, because He saved my parents, and I understand I'm a sinner without doing all those bad things. I don't need to mess my life up in order to have a testimony. The most powerful testimony to me is church kids who really get saved and serve God.
Yeah.
Because someone like me, I knew I needed Jesus because I was jacked up. But church kids who grow up in that, our prayer is that they don't ever get used to the grace of God. They don't get used to it. That they have a real relationship with God, that God does something. And, we've seen it now. We've seen kids who have grown up, serving God from a young age, becoming young men, becoming young women, not going out being dumb, getting married and being blessed. We're, last year, 8 weddings?
Yeah.
And a lot of them were all
Church kids. Yep.
All church kids,
Yep.
Coming through. And that's the blessing of God. And a lot of them stayed pure, so stayed holy, they saved themselves for marriage because they didn't go out and become stupid,
Yeah.
Well, am I allowed to say that?
That's going to be $1.
Okay. Unintelligent, sorry.
It's unintelligent. So in all of that, it kind of leads up to this one question that I have for you guys is what's been the hardest part of your walk with God? You've had your struggles of when you were a kid, you've had your struggles even in ministry, but what has been the hardest part of your walk with God?
Mine is as a mom. I'm going to cry. I want to see all my kids serve God. When they are not serving God, even though we love spending time with them and being around them and our grandkids and their spouses, there's a mother's heart is that their children serve God.
Yeah.
And that has been my hardest prayer over all this time because I haven't seen it yet. I am still believing God for it, trusting God for it, and then asking God to give us every opportunity to be a witness, to be a testimony, for Him to give us wisdom when it's time to speak and when it's time to be silent, for Him to give us wisdom when it's time to die on that battlefield and when it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, we see so many others get saved and we treasure all of those lives. And I, as a mother, am contending for and praying for the salvation of our children and their spouses and our grandkids. And that is a struggle in our life when our children don't serve God. And we have helped many families over the years when they have struggled with that. And that's just something that's still heavy on my own heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say it's probably the greatest struggle for us is, you serve God faithfully. You want your kids to serve God, but you can't make your kids serve God.
Right.
And that's probably the greatest frustration is why are you so brain dead? Why can't you see with the love of God, what God has for you? Can't you see where you're at now? The things we raised our kids to be adults and that's what they are. So, my kids aren't strung out on drugs, stuff like that, but, they're still living in sin. They're still separated from God.
Right.
And that, sometimes you look, what did I do wrong? How did I fail? But, God has really just said, no, they've had to make that decision.
Yeah.
And our prayer is, I don't want my kids to be miserable, but my prayer is God give them a revelation of who you are and what you have for them. So they'll be willing to walk away from their sin. So, you know what, God? I'm sorry, I walked away from this and I realized that you're a good God. You care for me. You love me.
Yeah.
And again, that's probably our greatest struggle is, our kids.
And your daddy preached on it yesterday.
Yeah.
Talking about we don't like to wait for stuff. We
Yeah,
want
yeah.
instant coffee, instant this, instant that.
Yeah.
And he gave some situations, some stories in the Bible where people were able to wait. And because they waited on God, it was worth the wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
they got to see the promise. And we're just still waiting.
Yeah.
Still waiting. So we're excited for when we get to see the promise, and that promise being our kids being saved. And, here we are, we're children's church leaders, and we're going to love everybody else's kids and we're going to love our own. And it's our heart and desire that everybody come to know Jesus.
Yeah.
Young, old, and the like. And whether you're right off the street or raised in the church, it's just our hope and our prayer that you would serve God and find out your destiny for Him. So we're contending for our children, their spouses, and our grandkids.
And that day that you get to be like Simeon.
And I
Thank
get
you.
to see the promise.
Yeah. Thank
Yep.
you for giving me this.
Yes. Yes.
And that's I think that's any parent's prayer.
Right. Right.
But like just in a ministry, I think really that's probably our greatest frustration is seeing that working with so many kids, and it's like, where's the disconnect? And the reality is, every kid has to make a decision to serve God, no matter what you were raised in, how you were raised, because salvation is a personal decision.
Yeah.
Parents can't have your salvation for you. Nobody can have you. You have to make that decision. And that's what we always try to emphasize to our kids, children's church, young servants, is I don't care if your parents come to church. I don't care what your parents do. What are you doing? Do you have a right relationship with God?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, we are, as individuals, are gonna all stand before the throne of grace. We're all gonna stand there, and we have to give an account of what we did.
Yeah.
I, as an individual, what did I do with Jesus?
And it all comes down to that relationship,
Right.
right? It's not just about, I think that's what a lot of church kids struggle with. Even like in my own life, I struggled with was I go to church, I'm fine.
Right.
But it's more than just going to church. It's more than just praying and reading your Bible and worshiping. It's so much more than that. It's actually giving yourself to God and surrendering and say, all right, whatever it is you have, I'm gonna step into it.
Right.
And I'm gonna build this relationship. Because we can have relationships with people where I know our relationship with God gets compared to having a relationship with just anybody else, right?
Right.
And just like with anybody else, you can have a relationship with somebody and never really talk to them. They can be your acquaintance. With me,
Yeah, you can have that superficial relationship.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, what's up, bro? How's it going? Oh,
Yeah.
good. We're friends. Yeah, we're friends. We're but it's that in-depth conversations.
Yeah.
It's getting to know someone who they really are. And, again, you can have a surface relationship with God, but
Yeah.
God wants to have a deep relationship.
yeah, He wants to go a lot further than what a lot of us are willing.
Right.
But it comes down to how much do you want to get to know God? Because you can't be half in, you can't be half out.
It's
if you
true
are.
because you can have a surface relationship. I mean, a lot of us can probably name famous people right now.
Yeah.
And you can probably, because of AI or different things, learn something about them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have a relationship with them. You're not talking with them daily. You don't have that time spent with them.
Yeah.
They're not imparting into you and you're not gleaning from them. You just have a head knowledge of that person.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, I don't care who you are, how long you've been in the church, sometimes your relationship with God is exactly that.
Yep.
I know who He is, and I know some stories out of the Bible. I even remember some cute little children's church songs.
Yeah.
But are you having a relationship with Him? Are you spending time with Him daily? Are you are you allowing Him to impart in your life, and are you gleaning anything you can from Him? Are you, are you desiring that relationship, or are you just going to keep that relationship in your head? Is it just going to be a general head knowledge? So that's when it needs to be a heart. The Bible talks about man looks at the outward and God looks at the heart, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We could be doing all kinds of things on the outward that people think that we're saved,
Right.
but what does your heart say? Are you spending time with Jesus? Are you surrendering? Are you asking for forgiveness? Are you letting Him take that heart of stone and turning it into a heart of flesh? Are you allowing that to happen? Are you just so busy with the things of this world that you don't cultivate that relationship with God?
Yeah, it's very true because I always tell people I don't care what you do inside of the church. What are you doing outside the church? It's really where it comes down to because there's a lot of religious people that know how to put the fronts up, but what are you like out there? Are you a light to the world? Can people look at you and go, I don't know what it is about that person. There's something different. They may not be able to say they're a Christian, but they're not like everybody else,
Right?
And they can go, and then when you tell them you go to church and you're a Christian, they're like, I can see it.
It makes sense.
It shouldn't be where I've worked with a few guys when they told me they went to church and they were Christians. I was like, would have never guessed it from a million times. The way you speak, the way you act, you're no different than everybody else. You totally blend in. But when they got around me, they got very religious and like, oh, I go to church, I serve. I'm like, no, you don't. It's just, and it's hard to tell someone that straight up like that, but it's not what you say, it's what you do.
It's known by your fruits.
Yeah, it's known by your fruits. Tell people the only sermon most people are ever going to see or hear is your life. And that's what they're going to look at. The only Jesus they may ever see is you. And what kind of representation do you have outside the church? It's great that you're doing all these great things inside church, but what are you doing outside?
Yeah.
That are making a difference.
That's sort of it's funny you brought it up because the last couple of times that somebody has said something around me that they felt like they shouldn't say in front of Jesus in that aspect, they'll say, oh, I'm sorry.
And that's, really that's an impact. You are having an impact on somebody because they realize, there's something different about Cody over here. There's something, I shouldn't be speaking this way.
But my response is, do I look like Jesus?
Don't apologize to me. You better apologize to God.
If I look like Jesus, thank God. But
well, I'm going to say in a way, yes, you do look like Jesus. It's because of what you're doing is making them have your reflection of who
Christ.
Jesus is convicting them. That's why they don't want to cuss around you. They don't want to do those things because it is having an impact on them. That's when you're having an impact on somebody who's like, hey, bro, I didn't mean to cuss around. I'm sorry. I'm like, it's cool, bro.
Then that's when I bring up.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not around.
Yeah.
Just think of anybody in the room that's with you, or if there's not anybody in the room, that reflection that you have, that's Jesus.
Yeah.
Because your temple that you have is Jesus.
Right.
And you're walking with that image that doesn't reflect who
it doesn't
made
matter.
you.
It doesn't matter if I'm here or not. Jesus is still here.
Right?
He's still seeing what you're doing, bro. I'm just saying. It comes down to it. Whether I'm here or I'm not here, you're at home, whatever.
Yeah.
God still sees what you're doing, and He still wants to forgive you of your sins. And if you can't do it in front of me, you shouldn't be doing it at home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's what are we at now?
We're at hour 12.
Wow. How long do you normally go?
About that time.
Okay. He's lying. He's like, I know. We usually go a lot shorter. You guys talk too much.
We actually usually go a lot longer.
Oh, okay.
But just want to thank you guys again for coming on here and agreeing to letting me embarrass you guys and taunt you and change your voice.
You keep saying guys, but the only one that was tortured was me. Okay, you took care.
See? Satan's about to come out, okay?
The only one who's being tortured is me, not her. She's enjoying this, and so are you guys, okay? So let's just quit saying torturing you. Just say Thot's getting tortured, okay?
Okay. Let's rewind. I want to thank you guys for coming on to the show, and thank you, Thata, for letting me torture you.
There we go. You're not welcome.
Do we want to do the last segment?
The music?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do
no.
music.
Okay.
So we're going to have you guys sing your song.
Oh, no, you're not. ¿Qué? ¿No sabes?
No sabe. Got that on there.
Oh, so I know you guys have seen, I don't know if you guys have seen all the episodes or just a couple of them, but we do Song of the Week. If you have a song that's been going through your brain recently and that you want to share, I have a song that I just heard the other day, so I'm going to play it.
Let me see if we're close here.
Let's see. Or even if you both have like your own.
He's got
your
one
own
that's really
song.
been ministering to him recently. That he even
Well, we'll
shared
let you
with
hear yours
somebody
first.
recently.
Who still saved you are.
Who is it by?
Mine, it's by Hulvey.
And the title?
The title is Miracles. Let me find the playlist. Sorry. I just heard it the other day, and I've been replaying this song like every day. Yeah, every day. It's been on repeat multiple times. You ready?
Hey, you're still doing. Hey, you're still doing. 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 Never ending. No pretending. I know it don't feel like life worth living. Tried so many times, paralyzed from the feeling. I know that you're crying, but he cries for his children. Hard to hold it in when the fam made together. 10 minutes apart, but it feel like forever. She just wanna walk, but her legs won't let her. So we praying right now, Lord, bring down heaven. Child, open up your eyes, open up your lungs. Let his healing flow. It's already done. You're still doing. Hey, you're still doing. You're still doing.
So that song, I think I heard it
song.
like on Wednesday,
It's
and I
a-
was like,
What a
oh my
fun little
goodness.
beat.
Yeah.
I love it.
I just love the
Little
chorus.
head bobbing and
Yeah.
repeating. You're still doing
And
miracles. That's great.
I think the song for me is Zach Williams. Jesus Loves You. Right?
Jesus loves. Yeah.
Jesus Loves.
Jesus. Oh yeah, Jesus loves. Okay.
Because it's just really, when you listen to the lyrics, it's really give the characterization of who Jesus is.
Right.
Just really what he's about. So I've listened to the song probably 1,000 times. Since once I first heard it, I legally downloaded it. I paid for it. It's on my
Sure.
phone. I got iTunes. So I pay for my stuff.
Oh, you could just download it off YouTube real
I'm a
quick.
Christian. I pay for that. I want to help Zach Williams out. Then his ministry. So I paid
right.
for it.
I give him views on his YouTube, and I
Okay,
just download
okay.
it to my phone and put it in my playlist.
Okay.
You're all thumbs up. Snatch.
Yes, snatch.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and play to that.
All the renegades, the rebels, and the runaways. All the prodigals who got a little lost along the way. And all the backsliders up all nighters down in the rut. These are the ones that Jesus loves. Every dream shattered, bruised and battered, barely hanging on. Every heartbroken, lonely soul sitting all alone. And every outcast stuck in their past, scared of letting go. And these are the ones that Jesus chose. Come on in, the door is open, and the Savior's arms are too. The table set, the seat is waiting, and He saved it just for you. So no more running, no more hiding. Come on in and you will find that you don't have to be enough to be someone Jesus loves. Too proud, holier now, looking down on them. And all the high and mighty falling from grace, trying to start again. And all the stones cast, judgment passed, He's forgiven you. Oh, He's living a light, oh, so you know where to run to.
I like that. I like that.
My favorite verse is you don't have to be enough for Jesus to love. You're in. It's just so simple. It's like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't have to improve yourself. You don't have to be more than you are than Jesus to love you.
Right,
It's
right.
Very simple gospel, but yet it just, how much God loves us.
Yeah.
And you also hear the reference of being stuck in your past.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You don't have to be enough to be someone that Jesus loves.
Yeah. You don't have to have a standard up here for Jesus to love you.
Yeah.
And that's the real hope for all of us.
Yes.
Is that none of us are enough, really.
Yeah.
And we don't
Yeah.
have to be for him to love us. There's nothing you can do to earn God's love. He just genuinely gives it to us.
Yeah. Did you have a song?
Oh no, that was a great.
Oh,
one.
that was
Yeah.
your guys' song?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Cody has a song request. Which one was it?
I mean, I could tell you one if you want one. There's one I've been jamming to.
Nana gets down.
Listen. Get ready.
When fear like a viper strikes and worry starts to creep, I know that ain't my father's voice. It could only be that liar in my ear trying to make me believe. So I'm calling him out in the name of the Lord. Listen when I speak. Woo! Devil, get behind me, run on home, back to the grave where you belong. In case you forgot, let me tell you the truth. You're stuck under my blood, my boots. Devil, get behind me, you got no home. I've been chased by the Holy Ghost. Try all you want, but it ain't no use. You're stuck under my blood, my boots. Get behind me. Get behind me. Devil, get behind me. The same power that raised my Savior is the power that lives in me.
She could have sang the whole song.
Oh, I know she could have. That was good. I like that one. I like
good
that
one.
one. I don't know, Cody. Which one was it?
Did you find yours?
Because she sang all of them.
I know. So, I don't know which one it was. It was the one prior to you trying to find the right key.
Are we talking about last night?
Yes.
Okay, so we did In Right Out Right, and then we did Faith, Faith,
Yeah.
and then we did He healed my body.
Oh
He
yeah, look what
touched
That
the Lord
my
one.
mind.
has done.
He saved me. That one.
Yes. Can we do that?
Look what the Lord.
I can try to
has
find it. I don't know if it's gonna.
Yeah, see, in our church, it's a little bit higher, and I do a whole lot of soul stuff with it, and we were a little
See,
bit lower last night.
I don't know if you're willing, but the way you sung it hit different.
Aw.
And what I'm asking is there a way that if we put the backtrack, even with somebody singing it, could you?
I got the
sing it?
cajon right there. I could play it.
Could you-
Whatever you guys want.
I can listen.
I'll have to pull up those words, man. I'm gonna get all nervous and whatnot.
Oh, you know it. You know it very well.
Yeah, whatever you want.
All right.
What do you want to do?
Let's put the cajon.
Look what the Lord has done. Yeah, look what the Lord has done. Well, He healed my body. He touched my mind. He saved me just in time. Oh, I'm gonna praise His name. He's evermore the same. Come on and praise Him. Look what the Lord has done.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you.
That was greatly appreciated.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys again. Hopefully you guys, well, I know you guys enjoyed the episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Hopefully you guys are subscribing.
Yes.
Subscribing.
Yeah, subscribe. Follow me on MySpace. I'm just kidding. I don't have a MySpace.
Has anyone found a Jolly Rancher? That's my question.
Yes. Let us know if you found the unwrapped Jolly Rancher from us with a little speck of dust and a little bit of hair in it. Let us know if you found it.
Nasty.
That
you
is
found it.
Yes.
Throw it away.
No, that is our gift to our subscribers. When they subscribe, they will find an unwrapped
Jolly Rancher with links
Jolly
and
Rancher.
a hair.
And maybe a hair.
Maybe
a
but they're
hair.
praying there's no hair on it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
that somehow the Lord will bless them with his,
Yes.
because they subscribed.
Little
Jolly Rancher.
little wind, little gust of wind to
The
blow
better
the
ones
hair.
are now the freeze dries.
Okay, I will not lie. I tried the freeze dried one and it was good. I did like it. I did.
It was Tata literally gave you the last one in the bag.
I gave you my last one.
It was delicious and it was green apple. I love
Yes.
the green apple ones.
Yeah.
Those ones
Freeze-dried
are so
one,
good.
They're great.
New sponsor. Freeze dried Jolly Rancher.
Jolly Rancher,
Jolly
reach
Rancher.
out to this guy right here.
Jolly Rancher, we're still waiting for our
Freeze-dried.
sponsorship
Waiting
on
for that
this
sponsorship.
podcast.
Here we go.
Still waiting.
Let's do it.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Oh, wait, you gotta do is say bye again.
Bye. We love you. Subscribe.
Like and subscribe, share us with your grandparents. They'll love us even more than you love us because
Yes.
we love them even more than we love you. So make sure to subscribe, hit like, send us some of their banana bread, send us some of their chocolate chip cookies because we'll eat it all and we want to be sponsored by Jolly Rancher. Thank you.